Unstoppable kick-ass confidence. Are you ready?
Welcome to the Raw and Unscripted show with Christopher Rausch, where we help you overcome your self-created crap without the self-help fluffy bullshit. Now please welcome our host, Christopher Rausch.
Welcome, everybody, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome back to another episode of the Raw and Unscripted show. I am Christopher Rausch, your host, also known as the No Excuses Coach, and we appreciate you guys tuning in live to the video cast, or of course, listening to us on the audio podcast in any one of 20 plus countries. We appreciate you. It's Tuesday night, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, your place where you can always show up here and learn how to remove your excuses and your tolerations in favor of having a kick-ass, unstoppable rock star life. We appreciate you guys being here. Just realized this as I was downstairs watching the vice presidential election here in the United States, that we may not have as many people as we normally do here tuning in live, but we know that there's a lot of you guys that tune in tomorrow morning on the East Coast. So thank you guys for being here. We got Crystal Rye in the house. Of course, Crystal, hey, appreciate you being here. And we're about to have a phenomenal conversation tonight with my special guest, who I will be introducing here in a second. And the one thing I just want to touch upon before we get the show started is I want to talk about anger and frustration and animosity and disappointment, because I know a lot of you guys out there are struggling with that. I ask you guys for emails every single week to let me know what it is that I can do here on the Raw and Unscripted show, what I can do on my social media to help you guys out. And in this last week, I probably got about 13 different email messages, Facebook messages, social media messages, text messages, talking about that and talking about being overwhelmed. And so I just want to start the show with this. Everybody, we have this opportunity to hit the pause button. Hit the pause button in your life. Stop the overwhelm, stop the chaos, stop feeding into the insanity that it is becoming your reality. Because for me, I can totally understand how that happens. I too was one of those people that would tend to be reactionary in the moment of what was going on in the world. And I would feel that sense of stress and overwhelm and anxiety and frustration and disappointment and all those different emotions that we have. But I encourage you to take a look at what's called breath work. If you just look up breath work, there's some pretty amazing opportunities and exercises for us to get high on our own supply, if you've never heard that term before. And for me, I do what's called box breathing. So when I'm in those moments where I'm feeling frustrated, I'm feeling that anxiety that's overwhelming and welling up inside of me, which happens quite frequently, is I sit there and I take a breath in for 4 seconds. I hold it for 4 seconds, I exhale for 4 seconds, and then I hold that for 4 seconds. And if I do that 4 to 6 to 10 times, I'll find my blood pressure drops, I'll find my pulse rate drops, and I'll find that in that moment, what the next thing I do is I can focus on what I'm grateful for. So instead of being reactionary to the stimulus that's going on in our lives, whatever's going on these little devices that we carry around with us so often, we can hit that pause button and we can sit there and say, you know what am I going to choose to focus on right now? Because we could focus on all the stuff that is causing us to distract our attention from what's important. And when we do that, when we get centered in that reality of gratitude, right? I'm grateful for the fact that I had this opportunity to have this show and have this amazing conversation, which we'll be having here in just a moment. I am grateful for the crystal rise in the house. And I'm grateful for all you guys that are tuning in all over the world. I'm grateful for this opportunity because in those moments, I can ask myself one very important question. What am I supposed to be learning from this situation right now? So when you're in those moments of reaction, ask yourself, hit the pause button and ask yourself, what am I supposed to be learning from this situation right now? How am I taking this personal? And there is no shortage of things to distract us from what's most important in our lives. And we tend to get on that train, right? And then what do? We tend to go around other people who are feeling that same way. And then we get that confirmation bias. Oh yeah, are you feeling anxious about the election? Are you feeling anxious about this? Are you feeling like that? So here, I'll give you an exercise before we jump into the conversation tonight. Look around wherever you're at and tell me that everything that's red. So you're going to say, that's red, that's red, that's red. I'm actually pointing to things in my studio that are red. That's red, that's red, that's red, that's red. Okay, now you got what's red, right? But if I ask you to tell me what was green, your immediate response is going to be, well, Chris, you were telling me to focus on what was red. The same thing happens and applies in life. If you're focusing on the news, if you're focusing on the things that cause you anxiety, if you're focusing on the negativity in life, guess what? Your reticular activation system is going to find more of that, and it's going to invite you to confirm what it is that you were believing in those moments before. But if you sit there and instead focus on what's green, if you focus on what you're grateful for, if you focus on those moments where you're sitting there saying, what can I learn and grow from this? You will find and you will invite more of those in your life. And I'm not telling you it's perfect, but I'm telling you, as you continue to do that, as you continue to stop stop and you become aware of the situations that you're allowing to infiltrate your nervous system, and you stop and you do that diaphragmatic breathing, you do that box breathing, you take those moments, I promise you, as you continue to do those, you're going to gain this confidence, you're going to gain this awareness, you're going to gain this opportunity for yourself to go, wow, I am in control. And I can respond to situations, or I can choose to react to them. So I invite you guys to do that. And of course, as always, feel free to check out www.noexcusescoach.com. There's plenty of videos on my YouTube channel that will help you develop that mindset, that resiliency to become whoever it is that you're intent on becoming. Got Richard Kaufman in the house. He says, good evening, brother. Love you. I love you too, man. I appreciate you. Richard also confirms, yep, use your RAS system. It's totally within our control. And so I'm going to invite you tonight, as you're watching this, whether you're live or watching on the replay, ask myself or my guest questions. This is an interactive conversation with you. That's why I do the video cast and then it goes to podcast, is to give you guys an opportunity to ask questions, to get the clarity, get the answers that you need in your life, so that between now and the next episode, you can incorporate those into your life. And here's what I encourage you to do. I encourage you to take down pen and paper, not just your phone, but take down pen and paper, write 3 strategies from the conversation tonight, because I promise you, guys know I use the word promise very sparingly. I promise you that my guest tonight is going to drop at least 3, if not 12 strategies that we can incorporate in our lives. So you take those 3 strategies, the next 7 days, you apply them in your life. You come back here next Tuesday night, or you listen on the replay, or you listen on the podcast, and then you apply another 3 strategies and another 3 strategies. And then in 3 months, 6 months, a year, you will find yourself with so many more opportunities to become the person that you're becoming, rather than staying stagnant, staying the same, and bitching and pissing and moaning about how nothing is happening in your life and how you're hoping and wishing and praying that someday something will change. I offer you that every single week. We've been doing the show now for 5 years. So if you want makeup homework, go back and listen to some of these episodes. If you want me to specifically give you the episodes that will impact your life the most, send me a private message on social media, send me an email, info@noexcusescoach.com. I will send you 12 or 13 episodes that I promise you will change your life. And then you incorporate those and you will become that person that you deserve to be, right? It's not about being a victim anymore. It's about being a victor. And so I encourage you guys to ask the questions, engage in the conversation. And I had this opportunity to meet, not often do I get to meet my guests in person, but I happen to have been a part of a networking event where I was going every single Wednesday night and I was meeting new people. And this gentleman got up there and was the featured speaker. And I sat there with my jaw on the floor going, wow. People need to hear this story. You know me, I am all about resiliency. I'm all about overcoming your excuses and not being limited by what was your past, because you have the opportunity every single day to say, you know what? I'm not that person anymore. I'm going to choose to focus on something different. I'm going to choose to find that inner discipline within myself. I'm going to choose to go through the tough shit in my life to become the person, again, I deserve to be. You do not have to be a victim of your life. And this gentleman tonight is going to inspire you to think differently, to act differently. So again, write these things down, take action on them, and please help me welcome to the Raw Unscripted show, Mr. Bryan Barrera. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you. I had a brain stun for a moment. Thank you, brother, for being here. I appreciate you. How are you doing this fine evening?
I'm doing good, Chris. Thanks for having me on, man. Really excited to be here. It was great meeting you at the Trajectory event that we met at. That was a lot of fun. Good people there, man. Great meeting you. I loved our conversation. It's crazy because I just realized this, man. Like we signed up for this like a long time ago. That's how busy you are and how awesome your show is. So it's been a long time. It's been like 6 months since I signed up or something.
Yeah, it has been. I'm actually booked into January of 2025 right now. I'm actually not taking any more guests right now because I'm going to be pivoting the show a little bit. Yeah. But yes, it was a long time ago. Actually, the guests that are on right now, I think I was talking to somewhere in January, February, March.
Dang, it's crazy.
It is. I'm blessed. I love doing what I do. I've been in broadcasting now for 11 years. I started my radio. I used to do a live radio show called the Kick-Ass Radio Show. I started that in 2013. I did that for 5 years. And then I took a little bit of a break and I've been doing this show for 5 years. I've done a couple other podcasts in between. So my whole goal is that every single week, if I can show up, when I show up, together, we can grow together and evolve together. And that's what I really appreciate about your story. When you got up there and you spoke and you talked about your trajectory, if you will, to use that for Scotty and Jay. When you talked about that, the thing I was so inspired about is that you did not stay the same. You did not listen to the people that told you where you were going to be. You took initiative, you took discipline. So before we get into the heart of that, I just want to ask you this question. What do you want to get across most to people tonight? You heard how I started the show. The show is all about resiliency, taking ownership, eliminating our excuses and our tolerations. What do you want people to walk away from this conversation knowing and believing the most in their heart?
Yeah, it's to get rid of your ego. It really is. I mean, everybody has an ego, but just get rid of the negative aspect of it that's holding you back. I mean, I did it before we got on this call, in the email that I sent you, Chris. I'm still scared of some of the demons that I have in the past, just like so many other people do. And that's why I'm not all about marketing myself to my full potential, because I'm scared that, especially in today's media with, a lot of stuff that came out recently in the last, since before COVID, a lot of stuff that's happened is true. A lot of stuff that, a lot of the movements that have happened have been rightfully so and just, but at the same time, a lot of fake media has happened as well. So a lot of fake media has happened. We see it every single day. So it's like, I'm scared sometimes. I'm nervous sometimes that a mistake that I made in the past is going to come back and bite me. Cause I'm just like, I'm that cognizant. I'm that I get the words mixed up, empathy and sympathy, but I'm that sympathetic or empathetic when it comes to people that I have, possibly hurt in the past, or, because now going through my journey, Chris, going through right now, my hopeful PhD I'm going through right now, should be done pretty soon. But I see how much something so simple can affect someone and the rest of their life. If you give someone a hard time at school, can affect their whole life. If you were a bully at one point, if you are, if you're somebody that, fired someone for the wrong thing, it could have totally sent them off in a different trajectory. And that's why I think it's so awesome that I'm on the show tonight with you, because, the no excuses coach, it's if I can show someone that it's okay to get out of your shell, it's okay to get out of that ego. Let's roll, man. Let's do it.
Hell yeah, man. I appreciate you saying that too, because I mean, I don't worry much about my past anymore. There's things that I've done that weren't correct or weren't right, and I've apologized for those. I've always tried to make amends for any situations that I've done in the past. And for me, it's always about who I'm becoming. And so if I got somebody that comes back to me for something I did 30 years ago, then my first question to them is, okay, how has that been for you to hold on to that for so long? Yeah. How has that been for you to hang on to that for your entire life, to think about those situations? Because we've all been young. We've all made mistakes. We've all said things incorrectly. We've all done those things. But I think the important thing is, I know the important thing is for us to continually look at who we're becoming. I was just coaching somebody today about that. And I said, who do you foresee yourself being in a year from now? Right now, they're lacking confidence, they're lacking self-respect, they're lacking self-love, they're apologizing for things that they did in their past. And I said, what is it going to feel like when you look at yourself in the mirror and you're really proud of that person you are? And they said, wow, Chris, I haven't even ever thought about that. He goes, I get goosebumps thinking about that opportunity. I said, you get to become that person. And I think one of the biggest things in that is forgiveness, right? Because so oftentimes we beat ourselves. We do something once, and I was guilty of this. I do something once, but we beat ourselves up over and over and over and over and over and over again. Yeah. So talk to me about that. Maybe talk to us about what forgiveness means to you and how potentially we could start forgiving ourselves. And perhaps through that conversation, you can realize some of that for yourself.
Yeah, forgiveness is huge, man. It really is. It's even if you did something, even if you feel like you didn't do anything wrong, still having that forgiveness and just understanding what it really means to forgive someone doesn't mean you're forgetting. A lot of people get that confused, and I'm not saying like hold resentment or nothing. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, forgiveness is not necessarily forgetting, right? It's like, what's that saying? What's that saying? Screw me over, shame on you. Screw me over twice, shame on me, or whatever. That's saying, it's so true, because you have to learn your lessons, but at the same time, forgiveness is so huge. I've forgiven a lot of people that have done stuff to me in the past. At the story I was telling you, I walked away from a huge payday at my last job, and I don't care if the person hears this that did that to me. I forgive you. I'm over it. Off to so many greater things, but it has to happen with forgiveness. It has to happen with letting it go. And you have to do that, or else you're always going to be the monster in your own head, and you're not going to be able to meet that superhero self of yours. There's a guy on Twitter, I forgot his name, but I've been following him recently, and he talks about that. He talks about the person you dream of, the person that you think of all day, that's the superhero in your mind that you can become. You know, you can become that superhero. You can become that great consultant or the incredible host of an amazing podcast. Like it's just, you have to let it go. I had this conversation with my dad quite a bit. My dad was an immigrant from Mexico. My mom was too. She passed away a few years ago. But my dad, he lives with me now. And he's such an inspiration, Chris. Like, it's really cool seeing him over the last 40 years. How, I'm 38, but, hearing his story and then me knowing him since childhood, just seeing what he's gone through. He lost his mom at a young age, came over here from Mexico City. He got his, it's so crazy. He got his papers, he got legalized back in the 80s through a Reagan initiative that he did through his work. And he's worked at Cardinal Health. He just retired for 40 years. And we talk about forgiveness. We talk about forgiveness all the time. You're talking about an immigrant from Mexico that worked for the same place for 40 years. And it's so crazy because now my company is called LC Innovation, and it stands for Leadership Consulting Innovation. And the innovation portion of it stands for him because he taught me about lean manufacturing, about Kaizens when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
Home from work sometimes, it's like, hey, Bryan, like, I did something cool, man. I met the owners today and we were doing a Kaizen. And now today I'm working with people on Kaizens. It's to answer your question, it's just like he's been through a lot. And I always tell him, like, hey, Dad, man, we got to learn how to forgive because look at all the incredible things that you've done. And if we keep like remembering the hard stuff, remembering the bad stuff, it's only going to make us bad. It's only going to make us rotten inside. When he left, sorry to ramble, but when he left,
Oh, no, you're good.
When he retired, they didn't even throw a going away party for him.
What? After 40 years?
Yeah, the company got bought probably 5 times since he was there. Yeah, he never got a going away party or nothing. And to this day, we still talk about it. And I told him, I was like, Dad, you can't get that time back, man. I know that hurts. I understand that, but it's just we just got to keep moving forward, man. Like, we just got to keep moving forward. We got to forgive and just keep going,
It is. It's true. And when I hear the word forgiveness, for me, one of the biggest aspects, I've been backstabbed, wrong, betrayed. I've had so many different situations in my life that has afforded me the opportunity to forgive and to understand and have empathy. And for me, one of the biggest situations for that was with my mom. I grew up homeless at the age of 13. I had to drop out of school at the 7th grade. 4 years of my life was on the streets. I tried to kill myself twice. Fortunately, I sucked at it. I had a gun put to my head. I told the guy to pull the fucking trigger. I had all these situations, and I kept looking at my mom, and people would ask me, they would say, Chris, don't you wish you had grown up with a different set of parents? Don't you wish you had grown up in a loving household? And I'm like, no, because I went through those experiences. They helped me become the man I am today. Yep. And it was through the process of writing my memoir, which is going to be out next year. It's called It's You and Me, Kid. When I was writing that book and I was going and reliving all these horrible experiences where my mom put the cats first and the dogs first and herself first, and where, I ate last and all these different things. And I just felt this frustration. I'm like, how could she have not, picked me first? How could she have not chose me? And then all of a sudden I stopped and I sat there and I asked myself a very important question. I said, how can I find empathy and forgiveness for this person? How can I find empathy and forgiveness for my mom so that I don't carry that through my life, that anger and that resentment and that bitterness and that, God, I wonder what would have happened. I mean, I was already grateful for the situations, but it wasn't until I thought, holy shit, if I had gone through the experiences that she went through, not about me, not about my woe is me, but what if I had grown up in 1942 as a woman to very young parents? Her mom and dad were like in their early 20s, 21 or 22. How would I have been? How would I have grown up? My grandmother was a very, very mean person. She was very vindictive. She was very physically abusive, mentally abusive, spiritually abusive. Have I put myself in my mother's position? Have I understood things from her lens, her perspective? Because she would say, Chris, I did the best I could with what I had, which I kept calling bullshit. I'm like, no, you saw how normal people were and you chose to still be like yourself. But I sat there and I went, wow, if I'd gone through her experiences, might I have been like her? And I remember that moment, Bryan. I was like, oh, I don't want to answer that. I don't want to answer that, because I was like, yeah, I probably would have been like her. And I probably would have turned out like her. And because I had that understanding that those situations didn't happen to me, that they happened for me, in that moment, God is my witness, I felt this huge sense of love for her. And I loved my mom. I didn't like her, but I loved my mom. But I felt this huge amount of empathy going, holy shit. Like, she went through a lot of stuff. She graduated high school at 15 years old. She had no friends. Her mom made her do nothing but schoolwork. She went to UC Santa Barbara at 16.
Wow.
I sat there and I found that empathy and that forgiveness. And I've helped so many people with that, to be able to take that responsibility for ourselves and put ourselves in those shoes. And my next question for you, because I know parts of your story, but I'm going to ask you, what was the lowest point in your life? And what is it that you learned from that experience? Because so oftentimes we use that low point in our life as a badge of honor. Like, oh, I'm fucked up because I was homeless. I'm fucked up because I was physically abused. I'm fucked up because this. And we use that as a reason, as an excuse for why we are not the better person that we should be today. So talk to us about one of those low points in your life and what it is that you learned from that, because I know that'll inspire people watching and listening tonight.
Yeah, man, that's kind of why the email, again, the email before we got on this, I remember that I also had a very toxic relationship with my mother. She came to Mexico at the age of 13. She had to work at the age of 13, and then she got educated later on. And she also just busted her ass, man. I mean, I just look back and I realized, like, man, she did so much for me. She was my dad really wasn't there for me in the first few years of my life because they were having issues, but he always like tried to reach me. That's why I love my dad so much. He always tried reaching me. He always tried getting a hold of me. And, my mom and him had issues, and I act just like him. And so we had all these problems, and it was just 6 years ago before she passed away. I could look back and say it was a bad childhood. Now, after she's passed away and after I've learned more stories about her and I've heard more things, it's just like, dang, man, like, stop. No excuses, no excuses, man. Like, just stop. This made you the person you are today. And once again, it's forgiving and it's not forgetting, right? I don't forget what I went through because that made me who I am. I forgive, of course, but I went through it. And so I was, yeah, man, it's so funny because now in leadership consulting and management consulting that I do now, it's so crazy because I love teamwork, man. I love doing that Kaizen. I love doing that stuff. And I realize now why I love sports so much is because it's team oriented, because growing up, I didn't have a sport. I didn't have a team. I didn't have a team growing up. Right. It was my mom and my brother versus me and my dad. My brother, I'm so close to now. It's so cool having that great relationship with him. But like, I didn't have that team. I longed for that team. And as I got older, I remember when I graduated high school, I slept in my car a couple nights too. It was bad. I didn't have a place to go. And, I graduated high school at 17, and my buddy took me in. And this is why I mentioned that email, is because my buddy took me in with his family, and I was a wreck, Chris. I was drinking all the time. I was doing crazy stuff, and I lived with him and his sister and just all this stuff. And like, I was jumping from his family's house to house. And, some nights, like when I couldn't get a place, like I said, I'd sleep in my car or another friend's house. And it's like, I was just like such a terrible person for that, like 6 months that I left. It wasn't me. I was so angry. I was upset. I was holding on to everything. Yeah. And I remember when I left, I was still 17, but I turned 18 after a couple of months, and after I graduated, and I went crazy, man. And, I treated like, since it's Raw and Unscripted, I treated women like they were just a piece of meat. I was young and stupid, man. And I just regret some of those things that I did. I wish I could say I'm sorry to some of those people now. I feel you. And that's it, man. To answer your question, that was it. I did so much wrong. And, I didn't kill anybody. I didn't, no rape, I didn't kill anybody, but the damage was there, and I just look back and I'm just like, damn, like I used to think I wish I could change that, but now it's becoming more like that made me who I am today. So that's it, man. That was my low point. I was just, and then from there, I started working at San Manuel, and I got a good job, and I just started improving myself and just focusing on work. And then the hair started going and the belly started getting bigger, and I became a workaholic. And yeah, that's it, man. That was my low point.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. We got Sunday Sparks in the house. She and I just recently became acquainted in person. She says here, she goes, way to own your shit and turn it into stepping stone for betterment. Thank you, Sunday, for being here. Appreciate you guys. If you guys not following Sunday, make sure you check her out. She's a force to be reckoned with. She's straight up like me, no filters, raw and unscripted. And I love that you shared that, man, because we all have to come to a point in our life where I call it the AAA. It's called awareness, acceptance, and action. You became aware of the situations that you were in. You became aware of your personality and the things that you didn't like. You accepted it for what it was, that it was your responsibility. Sure, other people had influences in your life, but it was your responsibility to make that choice, to become that person that focused on bettering yourself and becoming a workaholic. Is sometimes can be positive or constructive. But you made that person, then you took the action. And so that's the next question I want to talk about is discipline, because so oftentimes we'll blame other people, and you could be totally rightful in your position to be able to say, okay, I'm screwed up because of my mom. I'm screwed up because of my dad. I'm screwed up because of these different situations and influences in my life. But at some point you sat there and said, no, the person in the mirror is the person that needs to take responsibility and needs to take that action. But so many people will give that off to other people. They'll give away their power. What do you say to people to develop that inner discipline to be able to say, you know what? No, I realize it's going to take a lot of hard work. I realize it's going to take time, but I am going to do my very best in order to become that person I deserve to be, which I think a lot of people are struggling with in that guilt and that blame and that shame and everything else that's going on. Talk to us about that. Talk to us about how we can develop more discipline to really do our best when we think that we can't.
Man, great question. I would say a deep dive into your psyche, man, a deep dive into who you are. You got to be ready for a deep dive. There's a reason why you're not disciplined. It's okay to do a deep dive. It's okay to go back to the past and remember what happened before, because it could shape who you are today. It does shape who you are today. The influences that you talked about. A lot of that shapes my day today, man. Like I remember, we grew up poor. So like every time my mom had an extra dollar, she would take us to Baker's, which is a huge Southern California chain, right? And
Yep.
We went to Baker's, or if she had a lot of money, we'd go to Sundowners. I tell people about these restaurants, they're like, that's not a fancy place, Brian. I'm like, yeah, I know it's not a fancy place, but that's what it was. And yeah, man, but just like, our fast food for us was going out on a night in the town, right? So now today, when I go out and when I'm working and when I need something to eat real quick, I go to fast food. I go to fast food right away. And this is just an example, but, remember, like it used to be something like huge, right? To go to Baker's, to go to McDonald's, we had extra money. And now it's just like whatever, right? So, and like I said, something so simple, like, so why do I have an eating problem? Why am I so overweight? Why am I getting addicted to some chemicals in this food, right? So if you want to talk about conspiracy theories, like why am I getting addicted to this food? Is because it goes all the way back to my childhood. It goes all the way back, and it just means something to me. And anyways, that's one example. Another example is like, why do I have an issue? Why do I have an issue with like somebody being passive aggressive with me, right? I hate when people are passive aggressive with me. Just tell me what's going on. Why am I like that? I did a deep dive. One night I was at the San Diego Marriott Marquis at a conference, and I'm sitting with a psychologist who I didn't know was a psychologist. And I remember my mom was sick for the first time with cancer, and it really hit me. And I remember he was talking to me, and he was like, man, you look like you're really troubled tonight, man. What's going on? I did not know this person, but he just cut right through me. And I was like, whoa, how does this person know who I am? And we started talking. I was telling him about my mom and stuff, and he was just like, yeah, I understand why you're upset, and I understand why she's making you feel upset, even right now when she's sick and facing death, because she planted the cheese in you, man. And I'm like, planted the cheese in me? She was like, yeah.
That's an interesting statement.
She placed the cheese inside of you, like the mouse trap. Like she knows where to move it. She's always gonna know that. Always. She's gonna know that throughout your whole life. She's going to know when to move it, what pisses you off. No matter how good you get at life, no matter how good you get at psychology, whatever, she placed the roots inside of you. So she's always going to know what it hit no matter what. So let it go. And since that point, for the last 6-7 years, I still have trouble with that when someone's passive aggressive with me. So I know that might seem like a weird answer, but to answer your question, Chris, a lot of that discipline comes with knowing your strengths and your weaknesses, and knowing that if it's a weakness and you need to get disciplined on that, do a deep dive to why it's like that. It's okay to go back to your childhood. It's okay to do some research about this. It's okay to do that. Right now, I've lost 20 pounds since I left my last job 2 years ago. And I'm stuck here now. I'm stuck at this weight, and I can't lose any more weight. I can, but I need to find a way, right? So I've been doing a lot of research because my discipline is like kind of getting tired now. I'm like, I used to wake up at 5:30 a.m. Now I'm having trouble sleeping. I feel like I'm losing my grip on discipline, that discipline that I had. And to get up and work and lift weights first, then work, take a shower, or take my son to school, take a shower, then get going. I had such a great discipline, and I feel like it's nagging right now. But now I've been doing research. I went to the doctor. I found out I have high cholesterol. And even though my sugar's getting low, I'm pre-diabetic, my sugar's getting low, which is good. My blood pressure is getting low, but now my cholesterol is getting really high. So I'm finding out now, cognitively speaking, cholesterol can affect blood flow. Blood flow can affect your brain. So now, why am I getting tired? Why am I oversleeping? Why am I not sleeping? So I had to give you a long ass answer, Chris. Like, it's okay to, like, if you're not disciplined and if you want to get disciplined, it's okay to do a deep dive. It's okay to go see a doctor. It's okay to talk about what's 100%. Going on to figure out where you're going to move forward.
100%. You said a couple of things there I want to touch upon. And I helped somebody with this a couple of weeks ago. They said, Chris, it was a potential coaching client. They said, Chris, people keep pushing my buttons. And I said, what if you didn't have buttons to push? Talking about the passive aggressiveness, which I can understand. My mother always had to be right. She would go to the end of the earth to prove she was right. And I watched as a little kid, and I watched as a kid who grew up throughout the years. I watched, I'm like, okay, what does that do for somebody? If I have to be right, that makes you wrong. And if I make you wrong, what does that do? That puts you in a corner, and that means you're going to retaliate. That means you're going to come back at somebody. And so I started realizing, I'm like, it doesn't matter if we're right. It matters if we're happy. And so I keep things very simple in my coaching. Do I want to be right, or do I want to be happy? Because there's some points in our life where we sit there and we can choose to sit there and say, you know what, I could be right now, but what cost? What cost is that going to be to prove this person wrong? What am I really going to win? The old adage of, win the battle, but lose the war. Yeah. And so I started realizing that, but I told this person, I said, what if you didn't have buttons to push? Well, they do this to me, they do this to me, then they do this to me. And I'm like, so you're allowing them. So you're allowing them by becoming reactionary to the buttons that you're allowing them to push. You have them right there on your chest. I said, what if you took those away? What if you no longer reacted to those situations? Because you said it perfectly, and I want to touch on it a little bit deeper. We're talking about the root. And so oftentimes we're dealing with the symptom of something. Oh, I'll deal with my cholesterol. What's the deeper root? Why is it that I'm eating these bad foods? Why is it that I'm not having that big enough why? That's what I help people do. I tell people very simply, when you have a big enough why, you have a big enough how. And so one of the things I'll invite you to do this as well is when we have a big enough why. You have kids, right?
Yeah.
How old are they?
2 kids. One just turned 5, Sebastian, and Soleil is 3.
Okay, so they're young. My son's 7 years old. He is the absolute love of my life. And before, my big why was to make a difference in this world and use my very shitty experiences when I was younger to teach people how to become that unstoppable, resilient self, to get rid of their excuses. And so for me, when it was in 2008, I was very successful. I made 6 figures. I had a master's degree. I went back from being a 7th grade dropout. I went back and I spent 12 years in school. I got my master's degree, very successful in corporate. I've been coaching and speaking for over 20 years. I did it on the side as just my way of giving back to people. I found out I had a natural talent. People would come into my office at work, and I remember the conversation we had. I was in the same background as you, manufacturing, logistics, operations, and things of that nature. So people would come in and have an operations question for me. They would leave an hour later going, I can't believe I just told you that, Chris. And so I started feeling that, I've got a knack for this. But when I realized that my why, when I was at a funeral, I sat there and I thought, okay, if I died tomorrow, who would show up and what would they say? Yeah. Very, very, very poignant time in my life. And I've changed hundreds, if not thousands, probably thousands of lives by now with that question. If I died tomorrow, who would show up and what would they say? And at that point, even though I was successful and even though I'd been homeless and everything else, I figured 10 or 15 people would show up. They would bring Miller Genuine Draft and Jack Daniels and Motley Crue and Bon Jovi records. And they would proceed to talk about all the stupid shit Chris did. Remember that time he got drunk and did this? Remember that time he did this? Remember that time he did this? Remember that time he passed out and we stacked food on his head? Blah, 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 blah. And then at the very end, they would go, oh yeah, he was a 7th grade homeless dropout who wrote a book that became a movie and changed the world. Wow. And I honestly thought, as I sat in the back of this funeral, listening to all my coworkers eulogize this person, saying what a beautiful person she was, I thought, okay, I got to rewrite this. I can't have that to be the end of my story. I was in my early 30s at the point, and I was like, I can't have that be the end of my story. So I went home, God is my witness, and I started writing my eulogy. Something that we're all too uncomfortable with dealing as our demise, and we're all going to die. Some of us may die tomorrow. Some of us may die 30 years from now, but we're all going to die. And that at that point, I want to be able to look back on my life and go, okay, I'm leaving this earth for a particular mission. And so at the crux of my eulogy, when I read it back to myself, I started crying. And I was in my early 30s, and I realized that the crux of it said, Christopher Rausch will have fought for what's right and what's fair. He will have risked for what's that mattered, and he will have left the earth a better place for who he was and what he did. And I had tears rolling down my eyes, and I was like, okay, my mission in this world is every single day. My why is to make this world a better place, to fight for what's right and what's fair, to risk for what's that matter. I've been mentoring at-risk kids who have been in and out of juvenile hall and jail. I've been mentoring at-risk kids since then. I've been helping families who have dealt with homelessness. I've given coaching sessions away. I became a professional coach at that point. I've been a professional speaker, speaking all over the world, sharing that message, so that I know if my time was tomorrow, I have zero doubt that thousands upon thousands of people would reach out from all over the world, and my Facebook feed would be loaded with people like saying, Chris helped me. Chris got me to ditch my excuses. Chris. And not only that, but my son, who's now going to be almost 8 years old, my son would say, wow, I'm proud of my dad. I want to be like my dad. And for me, that's the end all be all. So when we have that big why, that gives us the discipline. That gives us the wherewithal to sit there and say, you know what? I'm not going to give myself the bullshit excuses. I'm going to get up and I'm going to do my workouts. I'm not going to put toxic food into my body anymore. My why is that I want to show my kids. I want to be the generational cycle breaker that says, no, you're not going to grow up with a father who allows people to infiltrate his system by having buttons to push. I'm going to do all these things and have that leverage in my life. And that's what we're talking about. That leverage is to sit there and say, I can do that. I can do that. And I'll give you an example. It's a program called, have you ever heard of a program called 75 Hard?
No.
Okay. So this is an amazing program. It's totally free. It's 75 days of 2 workouts a day. One of them has to be outside. They have to be 45 minutes, a gallon of water, healthy eating, no alcohol, totally healthy eating, 10 pages reading of a personal development book. You can't listen to it. You have to read 10 pages every day, which doesn't sound like a lot, but over a period of time, you read about 2 or 3 books during the 75 days. And then you take a daily progress picture. And I've done this program 3 times in my life, not because I wanted to do it, because I tried to talk myself out of it. And the discipline you create for yourself, the sense of pride you create for yourself, when you keep your promise to yourself, that's what I teach people to do. If somebody asked me the other day, what do you do? And I said, I help people keep their promises to themselves. Like if you just kept your promises to yourself, you wouldn't need a coach. And I believe that everybody should have a coach. I have a coach. I have mentors. But when I did the 75 Hard program, there was one point where it was 11 o'clock at night and I thought I had already done my second workout. And this is all based upon yourself. You have to keep your promises to yourself. It was 11 o'clock at night. I got up at 3 o'clock in the morning to go to work. I realized that I did my second workout the previous night. I hadn't done it that day. I got confused. And so I got up, God is my witness. I got out of my comfy bed. I put my clothes on and I walked downstairs and my wife says, what are you doing? And I said, I forgot to do my second workout. And she said to me, and I quote, nobody will ever know. You have to get up early, babe. And I said, I will know. And I went out and I did a 45-minute walk outside and I felt so tremendous because I kept my promise that I didn't bullshit anybody. I didn't bullshit myself. And I came back and I've done that program 3 times. And because I've done that, I have developed the resiliency to sit there and say, you know what? I don't feel like going to the gym today. It was just last week. I was on Thursday. I didn't want to go to the gym. I was like, oh, I can skip it. But I sat there and said, fuck that. The only person I'm going to skip out on is myself. I need to go to the gym. I know I will feel better from going to the gym. And I've done that. And that's what I teach people. So I encourage you to write your eulogy and consider you got with your kids in mind, because when you do that, you develop this sense of pride. And for me, I teach all my clients, go to bed every night with something to be proud of. I'm proud of the fact that I didn't put that cake in my mouth. I'm proud of the fact that I did my workout. I'm proud of the fact that I drank my gallon. I drink water every single day. And I too was like you. I had high cholesterol. I had high triglycerides because I used to drink. And I quit drinking over a year ago. I just quit. I said, what would it be like if I just quit? Yeah. And because I want that longevity, the big why for me is being here for my kid when he has kids. He's 7 years old. And so my why is to take care of myself and to put the right things in my body and to surround myself with the right people. And so I know that you have that ability to do that as well. And so all of that is to say that we have this opportunity within ourselves to no longer be that person.
Yeah.
Every single day, I invite people to wake up and say, you know what? I get to be the new Bryan today. I get to be the new Chris today. I get to be the person that perhaps isn't going to react to social media bullshit. I'm going to be the person today that doesn't watch the news and follow politics, because there's really not a whole fucking hell of a lot I can do. And so 10 years ago, I stopped watching the news and following politics. I've been very happy. I've had people come at me and say that I live with my head in the sand. I'm like, I know what's going on, but I'm not going to allow it to dictate my life.
Yeah.
And so that's the opportunity that we all have to become. And so my next question for you is, thinking about all the lessons in the life that you've learned, what would be, if today was your last day, what would you tell your kids is the most important aspect of life to really consider and take hold for themselves?
Oh man, you're hitting me with some good ones.
Yeah, I love what I do.
Dang, wow, that's a really, really tough one.
I know,
man.
I'm secretly helping you right now. That's what I love to do.
No, yeah, man. It's it's gonna sound weird, man. I'm just such a workaholic. I would definitely say make sure you love what you do.
Yeah.
Just make sure you love what you do. And that's the one thing that I talk to some little kids in school sometimes. My buddy Manuel Zavala, he runs student hires, and he gets me to talk to people about career development and stuff. And I talk to some little kids sometimes, and I tell them, like, man, just chase your dreams. Like, literally chase your dreams. Your life will be so much better. You like dinosaurs? You like dinosaurs when you're 15, when you're 13, and people are telling you, oh, dinosaurs are stupid, and you still like them? Man, follow it. Follow it. Keep going. You know, if you like dirt, I mean, you know, if you like dirt, if you like, you know, you'll probably be an archaeologist, or you like, you know, digging stuff. Like, whatever you like when you're a kid, if it follows you, you can get into it. I mean, it froze on me. Great conversation. Oh,
yeah, I put up the comments of people as they're chiming in.
Gotcha. Yeah. So, you know, that's what it is, Chris. Like, it really is. It's you know, if you love space, if you love robots when you're a kid, follow it, man. Robots is taking off right now. Like, and it's there to help, because people now, the workforce now, a lot of them don't want to do that strenuous labor anymore. And we need some assistance with some robotics. Somebody has to run the robots, like AI right now. Everybody was scared about AI. Oh, AI is going to do this and that. AI still is not perfect, not even close. Mm-hmm. It's going to get so much better. I understand that. We're at the tip of the iceberg, but AI needs someone to run it. It needs someone to fact check it. I use Copilot for a lot of things, and I correct it all the time. It has my stats wrong. It has like anything wrong that I'm doing for articles or for books, a book I want to write. It's always wrong. So anyways, the whole point is, like, you know, these things that scare us, or these things that other people put into a paradigm, like, oh, that's stupid, that's only for little kids. Like, if you like slime as a kid, like, just keep following. You might be a great biologist or whatever. Like, and that's the one thing I want to show them, is that now at my age today, you love what you do, Chris. I love what I do. I love going to a company and working on their culture, working on lean manufacturing, their sales. I love it. So as a kid, not having that teamwork made me long for it. And now I'm 38 years old, and I just love building teams. I just love it, because I look at teams like it's my Lakers, it's my Dodgers, it's my NFL, it's my NBA. That's the way I look at it. I look at it with a lens of, like, okay, listen, this team won the second Super Bowl in a row. Why did they win their second Super Bowl in a row? What do they have? Oh, well, Patrick Mahomes has incredible talents. Why does he have incredible talents? Oh, because, you know, they traded Tyreek Hill 3 years ago, and they're still winning the Super Bowl. Yeah, well, that's a huge point, because Patrick Mahomes has to have super fast wide receivers. They could be super tiny, but that builds his team right there. It's finding out that stuff. You know, the other day I was talking to a client, and he was going to move someone into a position, a new position, and they were focused, I believe, on the wrong area, on where to move that person, or on what type of person to move into their area. And I brought up a New England Patriots reference with Tom Brady. I got on the board, and I was like, hey, Tom Brady had super tiny wide receivers. They weren't fast. They weren't athletic, but they were precise. And they were always reading the playbook with Tom Brady. They were with him 14 hours a day, going over plays, going over video. They were the first ones in with him, last ones out with him in the gym. That's the type of mentality, type of players he needed to be successful. He had Randy Moss, 6'4" wide receiver, second greatest wide receiver of all time behind Jerry Rice. That's arguable, but he didn't win a championship with him. He won a championship when he had Deion Branch, Wes Welker, Julian Edelman, super small dudes, but very precise, great route runners. Anyways, the whole point I'm getting to, Chris, is like, I love sports. I love sports analogies. And now when I go to do my lecturing, or when I go consult, or when I go team build, I'm looking at them like, okay, how can I make your championship team? So if you love something when you're a kid, follow that dream. And man, you could probably do it when you're my age, or when you're 50 or 60, and you're going to live a way happier life. Sorry, that was a really long answer.
No. It's all good. And I appreciate that, because that's what I teach people, is to have teams. And so when I talk about teams, I don't use sports analogies, but I use the acronym TEAM. So somebody you trust, somebody who empowers you, somebody who holds you accountable, and somebody who is your mentor. And They can't be the same person. And I find there's so many people out there, and I'm sure you'll agree with me on this, is that they think they are the team for everybody else. But then when they look inside themselves, they have nobody on their team, or they have one person on their team. And so that's one thing I encourage people is, like, I have mentors. I have people that I could reach out to and say, hey, listen, can you review my podcast and let me know where I need constructive feedback? I don't call it criticism. I call it constructive feedback, because as we're growing, then that's opportunity for us to do something differently. I have my coach down in New Zealand. I probably have 3 or 4 different mentors and people that I can trust. I have an accountability partner that I talk to every single week, Walt McKinley. He will sit there and say, Chris, I'm going to push back on that with you. So my question to you is, who's on your team? Who's the person that's holding you accountable, that's getting you to be that next best version of yourself, so that you ultimately don't die with high cholesterol and you don't die with those different things in your life? Who are the people on your team? Like, as you're talking about the wide receivers and all that stuff, who is your posse on your team that's holding you to that next level of who Bryan's supposed to be?
Man, I have well, first of all, I have my wife. She works with me. She's our CFO. My niece is our chief operating officer. They motivate me every day. They're phenomenal. My wife's good at finance. My niece is really good at marketing. They hold me accountable pretty well. But to answer the actual question, it's my mentors, man. I have like a few really good mentors that hold me accountable, and I don't talk when they talk. I get scolded quite a bit. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes they give me great compliments, and but yeah, they hold me accountable. My business partner, he holds me accountable. My future business partner, he holds me accountable, and they're a lot older than me. No, actually, my business partner is not, but the other person I want to work with in the future, he's older than me, but I listen, man. I just listen. They kick my ass sometimes. Sometimes I feel like they're a lot smarter than me. That's okay. That's okay to work with someone who's smarter than you, or who you think is smarter than you. Because it's funny, because you understanding that person is probably smarter than you makes them probably think that you're smarter than them. With wisdom or something like that. Like me being this way, Chris, has made people tell me I'm great at connecting the dots. And I'm just like, shit, I didn't know that was a gift.
Right.
Like, I didn't know being a dot connector was a gift. But it makes sense with teams, right? Putting people in the right places. And another thing too is you talked about accountability. It's okay to get to an argument with a mentor sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
Or a mentee. It's okay. And most people, when they, especially leaders, especially CEOs of small businesses or medium size, or even large corps, when someone argues with them, they go behind their back and they try to fire them, or they talk bad about them. I mean, it's okay to get into a little argument with somebody sometimes, so hopefully that answered your question, Chris.
Oh, it did. And I just looked up at the clock. We've been already going for almost an hour, dude. I knew this conversation was going to be fire. We didn't even get into the other fucking 20 questions that I have about leadership. So I'll definitely have you back on the show, because that's one of my wheelhouses as well. I was in corporate for a long time, and I love talking about leadership, but I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that the things we talked about in here tonight are going to move people. The people that are watching here tonight, we got Miss Angel here in the house. We got Jacqueline in the house. She says, I am my own mentor. I give myself a pep talk all the time. But also, Jacqueline, I'm in your life too, because you watch the show and you can seek feedback from me. You got to have our team in our life. So what is like some final thoughts that you want people to walk away from tonight? And then also let them know where they can get a hold of you. I'm going to put your website here in the link for them to check out, lcinnovations.org. I'm going to put that in here. But what are some final thoughts and ways people can get a hold of you so they can continue the conversation with you?
Yeah, lcinnovation.org. You can reach me on LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn quite a bit. I love LinkedIn. I'm not really on Facebook or on Instagram, but I'm on LinkedIn. I love LinkedIn. Some final thoughts, man, just go crazy, man. Just be that superhero, man. Just go. Just like, yeah, just go. Like if you have some doubts of what you're doing, then it's probably the wrong thing. But if you have doubts of what you're doing, but you still want to do it, there's some passion there. You got to chase your passion, man. And I just know so many people that see what I'm doing and they're just like, bro, like you're just like it's just awesome what you're doing. And then I challenge them and I try to bring them on board and they just kind of freak out and they kind of just go their own way, and that's fine. But it's like, man, just find your passion and stick to it. Just stick to it. Just roll, man. Just go with it. Go all out. Because if you're that passionate about something, could you imagine how much money you could make if you're passionate about that and you work on that 8 to 10 hours a day? You're never going to get tired. And you're going to know when to turn off. It's like, all right, man, you know what? I went after everything I could on that today. I'm going to hang out with my family. It's 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock. I'm going to hang out with my family. You know what? I'm an entrepreneur. I'm going to take today off because I can. Because I worked 7 days last week and I'm going to take today off. But it wasn't really work because it was your passion.
Amen, brother. Amen. I can't thank you enough, Bryan, for coming on the show and having this heartfelt conversation for me. Transparent conversation. That's what we do here. So I'm going to place you backstage. I'm going to finish out the show. Don't go anywhere so I can still have a conversation with you. But thank you so much on behalf of myself and everybody who's listening and watching tonight.
Thanks, Chris. Appreciate you, man.
No worries. Don't go anywhere. And there you have it, boys and girls, rock stars of the Kick-Ass Nation. We got Steven Smith in the house. He says, greetings from Sarasota, Florida. Thank you for sharing. No problem. Glad you are safe, Steven. I know that the hurricane just recently came in there. And just a word to all of you guys out there. My heart goes out to you. I have friends in North Carolina. As I was talking about mentors, my friend Jock, he was in North Carolina, just outside of Asheville. He's out there helping people in need with food and water. We can all be out there to help one another. If you see an opportunity to donate. Let's all help one another. It's not about partisan politics or any of that other shit and the labels that we go on in the world. We're all Americans. We're all people. We can all help each other. So thank you, Steven, for being here as well. He says, hashtag passion project, hashtag grateful heart. 100%. We all have something to be grateful for. And I'm grateful for each and every one of you guys here tonight. I know that we're in 28 plus countries. I haven't checked it recently. I only check it probably once every quarter. But I appreciate you guys showing up here. And again, through this broadcast, if there's something that you want me to talk about, feel free to send me an email, info@noexcusescoach.com. You guys can go to noexcusescoach.com. You guys can go to rawunscripted.com. You can find a way to send me a message and let me know what it is that I can do here on the show to help you in your life. Because ultimately, like I just told to Bryan, every single night you should go to bed with something to be proud of. I'm proud of the fact I didn't eat that. I'm proud of the fact I didn't drink that. I'm proud of the fact I didn't let somebody push my buttons today. I'm proud of the fact that I watched the Raw Unscripted show and I took down 3 strategies that I'm going to implement this week. I am proud of the fact that I'm no longer tolerating people that are in my life that are toxic. Every single night, just imagine there's 365 days in a year, 365 nights you go to bed and you're grateful for 1 to 3 to 5 things. And then you wake up in the morning and rather than focusing on your phone and what's negative in the world, instead you take that first 5 minutes, and we can all do this. There's absolutely no fucking excuses on this. The first 5 minutes to say, wow, I'm grateful for another day. I'm grateful for technology. I'm grateful for my son sleeping in the room next to me. I'm grateful for my animals. I'm grateful for my health. I'm grateful for the opportunity that I get today to become the person that I deserve to be. If you came into this show anywhere but in the beginning, go back and watch the beginning because I talk about that deserving, because some of you guys out there aren't loving on yourselves because you're making shitty decisions. You're putting crap into your body. You're allowing toxic people in your life. You're allowing the negativity to seep through. And trust me, that will kill you. That will kill you. I've seen friends of mine, like Bryan was talking about his age. I'm 55 and I'm very fucking proud of that. But I've seen people throughout my trajectory and through my life who have constantly been negative and pessimistic and toxic and all these different, whatever you want to throw at it, I can give you example upon example. I know somebody right now that was in way better shape than I was in my 20s and 30s. He's on 18 medications. 18 medications. He's only 3 years older than me. I'm on no medications. 18 medications. He's negative. He's pissy. He's angry. He's divisive. He's all these things. He's going to be fucking dead. What is your choice? What is your choice? You have the opportunity to become the best version of yourself every single day. So wake up and be grateful, number one. Number two, set the intention for the day. My intention is not to be a dick. My intention is to be grateful. My intention is to bring love and light and opportunity to the world. I say hi to everybody. I give people hugs that are complete strangers. I live my life with love, not fear, not anger, not resentment, not labels. I don't get mad because somebody doesn't have the same political belief that I do. I don't get mad because somebody doesn't share my same vaccination beliefs as I do. I sit there and I look at the opportunity for love to bring people together. Because again, if tomorrow is my last day, there is 100% certainty in my life that my Facebook and my social media and the people in my physical life will show up and say, Chris made a difference. Chris made a difference in my life. Chris walked his talk. Fucking congruency is massive with me. If I can't keep my word, if I can't be authentic to my word, then what the fuck am I doing here? Giving everybody else advice but not taking it? That's why I quit coaching in 2016. I told you guys that story. 2016, I couldn't coach anymore because I was not fucking taking my own advice. And so I took 2 years where I didn't coach, and I went down a deep dive, and I got coaches and mentors again. And I joined a mastermind, and I got right with myself. And I sat there and I said, I need to let go of those beliefs that are no longer serving me and the people that are no longer serving me. You have that opportunity every single day with what you focus on and what you bring in. Again, like I said at the top of the show, if I ask you to look around your room and tell me everything that's red, and you say, that's red, that's red, that's red. And I say, tell me what's green. And you say, well, fuck, Chris, you tell me, look, what's red. The same thing happens in your life. So I encourage each and every one of you, and this is not a fucking sales strategy, but have people in your life who hold you accountable. I have an accountability program. I have a coaching program. I know that beyond a shadow of a fucking doubt, I can help you change your life. The question is, will you do that? Will you make the investment, or will you come up with excuses? Do not give yourself excuses anymore, ladies and gentlemen. The time is going by. How fast have the last 5 years gone? How COVID was 4 years ago. I was just telling somebody this the other day when they were thinking about, they've been the same person for the last 4 years. And I said, how is that working out for you? The last 10 years. My life is evaporating. I'm 55 fucking years old. I look at the writing on the wall. Average life expectancy is 72 to 75 years old. I got 20 summers left. Are you fucking kidding me? No way. That's why I quit drinking last year. That's why I go to the gym 5, 6, 7 days a week. That's why I'm constantly looking at different supplements. That's why I'm constantly looking at new technologies, because I have that big why. That big why is so massively important. Again, you guys are the navigators of your ship. So I encourage you, surround yourself with the best. Don't tolerate your bullshit. Thank you, Steven. Steven says here, you are awesome, Christopher Rausch. Thank you, my friend. And I take that with all the passion and appreciation in the world, because there was a point where I wasn't. Yes, 100%. And Steven says here, I'm grateful, healthy, and safe. That's 100%, right? So oftentimes we're looking at the things we don't have, and I'll be happy when. I'll be happy when I have money. I'll be happy when I'm famous. I'll help you happy. No, be happy right now and today. Right after this, I get to go downstairs and be with my family. I get to have a nice meal. Fucking hey, man. It's not about what it is that we're going to get. It's what we got. And so much of us have so much, and we waste it by thinking that someday it'll be okay and someday it'll be better. Today is the day. I encourage you guys. So make sure you're subscribed to the podcast, rawunscripted.com. Go check it out. We're on Spotify. We're on iHeart. We're everywhere podcasts are sold. I'm going to be back here next week with another incredible guest. But again, send me a message, because I got a solo show coming up. And as you guys always know, I cater my solo shows to you guys. Next week, we got Pat on the show. You're going to dig Pat. She's amazing. So go out there and be loving to somebody. Go out there and every single day do something to make this world a better place. And I promise you, it will come back to you in so much. I'll end it with this. Steven says here, wonderful broadcast. Thank you. Thank you, my brother. I appreciate you and all of you guys. Angel in the house. I appreciate Angel. You guys got to be in the Raw Unscripted group on Facebook. We're nearing 1,000 people on there. Angel is a fantastic host, and she posts content every single day that will change your life. Thank you, Angel, for being here. You are my angel. And I will see you here next time on the Raw Unscripted show. Go out there.